Have you thought about coming here to Russia? Is that too crazy a thing to do? Perhaps you're just curious how other Westerners have gone about doing so. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how, the exact same way I've done so multiple times from Australia.
Alright, the first thing you need to consider is getting yourself a valid visa before coming here, and the type of visa that you'll get is based on your reason for coming to Russia. So we're going to focus on a tourist visa in this one. I think that's going to be most people's situation. So when it comes to getting a tourist visa to Russia, you need to see if your country is on the Russian Unified e-visa list. I'll bring up the list and I'll provide a link to it so you can see it for yourself. Here we have the website for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation Consular Department. And just below is a list of all the countries. I believe there are 52 countries here that are eligible for the e-visa. Your process for getting a tourist visa is going to be different for any of the countries that aren't on this list. Mainly, you don't need to provide things like hotel booking confirmations and getting yourself an invitation letter so that you can apply for the tourist visa. So go through that. I'll provide the link. You'll also be able to see which ports of entry are eligible for you holding an e-visa to and from Russia. But I'll move on and show what the process is for Australians or any of the other countries that aren't on that list. So if your country is not on that list, it's very simple to figure out what it is you need to do. Simply go to the Russian Embassy website for your country, and they all look pretty much the same. Here we've got the Russian Embassy for the USA, and we've got the website for the Russian Embassy in Australia. So you can see all you need to do, they have the same layout. For each one of them, you'll go to the consular services and you'll see that in this case, the tourist visa is right here. You click on there, let it load through, and it'll give you information that you need about the tourist visa. You can see that you're eligible up to 3 months in Russia, and it'll go through a few other things there, like what kind of documents you'll need to provide. You can send through the application directly to the consulate, or for Australians, and this is a service that I've personally used and people that I know have used. This company is called Travel Visa to Go. And as you can see, this here is the only officially authorized Russian visa center of the Consulate General of the Russian Federation in Australia. They are designated for processing visas to Russia. So we can see here on the main website, we can select visa type, and we're just going to go to tourist visa. But while we're looking at it, you can see there are other types of visas here: business, private, work, and so on. We're just going to stick to the tourist visa. All the information is outlined there. You'll go through this, provide all the necessary documents. I'm not going to read through all of the items on this list here. If you want to go through and get the tourist visa, you're going to be reading this anyway. I'm just going to point out the things that are probably worthwhile explaining here that may not come about at first or may give you some problems, at least from what people have been talking to me about. I've been getting contacted by a lot of viewers regarding some of the more common issues with getting the tourist visa if you're from a country that isn't on that list, the e-visa list that is. The thing that is applicable to everyone from a country that isn't a part of the e-visa list is that you need to provide an application. Here you can see the website for applying for the application. You just put in the country from which you're making the application, and then you go through. And the second point of interest is going to be providing medical insurance. And then the third thing is going to be the hotel invitation. So let's focus on the hotel invitation. The company you use for the hotel invitation, and remember, this is important if you're going to apply for a tourist visa, you need to provide this document. Essentially, all it is a company that is registered to host tourists in Russia. And then all you're doing is going through a website like this one. I believe there are a couple of others too. There was another one that I was aware of in the past, but I know this one is current and works. It's called iVisa. You're just going through the website, clicking on apply now. You're going to put in the country of your citizenship. So in my case, it is Australia. And then you just fill in all of the details there. And the first bit is just filling in whether you want it to be single or double entry. That just means which permission you're given to come into the country one time or 2 times or multiple times. Remember, for your country, you may only be eligible for up to 90 days anyway, like Australians are. So in our case, over a 90-day period, we can choose here whether we want to come back into Russia a second time or just a single entry will leave and that's it. Put in there whatever is applicable to you, the dates of your entry and exit, how many people are coming in, and then it'll tell you what the price is. You can, I believe you can change there you go, you can change the currency. Boxes to fill in here. your personal details, passport, and so on. And here's an important part. This is the whole point of the hotel invitation. You need to put in the city where you've booked a hotel that you're going to stay at. So if you're staying in Moscow and there's a particular hotel, I don't know what the hotel is at the top of my head in Moscow, let's say Geston Hotel, I don't know, something like that. That's all you do. And then you go to add city and a hotel, and you're doing that for every place you've booked. Now, there's no requirement for how many places you're going to stay. You can choose up to 5 cities here, but really you only need to put in maybe 1 or 2. And another important thing to remember about this is, even though you've booked these hotels here and this is a part of your application, you're not locked into these places. It doesn't mean that you've got no flexibility when you come here as a tourist. Maybe you come and they've double booked, or maybe you've had a slight change to your itinerary and you want to stay in a different city or anything like that. Of course, you can change that. What you need to do is try to find hotels that allow free cancellation and allow you to pay on arrival. And when you find those hotels, put them into this list, because once you get there, it's fine. You pay when you get there. And if there's a change to maybe, the next hotel you're going to stay at, or you change your mind, you're not going to go to a particular city after all, and instead somewhere else, then you can just cancel that and it's all fine. And therefore you avoid having to find a way to make these payments up front before getting to Russia. And later on, I'll discuss exactly how you can make payments once you get there. Once you've done filling out all of the information on that website for iVisa, you hit apply, you pay for it. In the end, you'll get a document that looks like this. It'll have things like your date of birth, your first name, your last name, the date of entry, be filled in the way you've put it in on that website, and that's all it is. You'll get it through your email address, the address you put in the details on that website prior to this page. It's that simple, really. You go to the website, put in the hotels, the country, cities that you're staying at, pay the fee, and that's it. Just make sure your name, date of entry, date of exit, your passport details are correct, and you're good. You will need medical insurance, and I'll touch on that briefly before moving on. So I have here a website that I'm familiar with and used before, and I know of other people who have used it successfully to get medical insurance to come to Russia. In this example, I've just got a few months of travel, and I've put in a nominal age of 30 years old. So you'll just hit continue, and then it will show you what the price is. In this case, for 3 months, the insurance is going to cost about 80 euros. Good thing about doing it through here though is once you continue, you can choose the option to pay either with the Russian Mir payment system or use the Western payment system if you've got a Visa or MasterCard. So I'll just quickly put in some dummy information here to continue and show you what it looks like. I filled that out. I'm going to hit continue. And then here you go. And you have an option here to pay with both a Russian card or a Western card. Here you just go non-Russian card, which I'm guessing most of you are going to be clicking on. And then you'll put in the details for a Visa or a MasterCard. You'll get the document later on, and you'll attach that to your hotel invitation and then your Russian application documents, and you will forward that through as your Russian tourist visa application. For flights to Russia, the options are clearly going to be different for people flying there from Australia as opposed to people going to Russia from, say, Western Europe or in the United States. So if you're coming from Europe or somewhere in that direction, then one of the best options from what I'm aware of is going through to perhaps Istanbul or another port in Turkey and then flying through into Russia. There are a couple of other options there, but you'll probably have to find out what's best for you coming from those countries. I'm much more familiar, obviously, with how to get to Russia from Australia. If you're coming from Australia or New Zealand, then you've got 2 options. You can fly there through the Middle East, or you can fly there through China. Now, the Middle East is also an option for people who are probably coming from the United States. You can fly over to one of the countries there and then go up north into Russia. But for Australians and New Zealanders, you can go through to the Middle East using airlines such as Etihad, Emirates, Qatar. They're all going to have different prices. I think lately the best price from memory was Qatar Airways, and I do recommend booking with any of these airlines directly, because if you get any cancellations or something else happens, it's always much easier to go about getting refunds or rescheduling the flight. That goes twice as much for flights with the Chinese airlines. I don't think their systems are as rigid as the Arabic Airlines or any other major airlines around the world. In terms of going through to Russia through China, there are companies like Air Asia, there's China Southern, China Eastern, And then there's one, Sichuan Airlines, which I've also tried as well. Keep in mind, if you're flying to Russia through China, there are very long stopovers. I'm not sure if they do that intentionally. If you stop there beyond a certain number of hours for a stopover, then you're forced to have to enter the country. It's a bit inconvenient because obviously you'll have to pick up your bags. If you're flying through anyway, it doesn't matter. You're gonna have to pick them up and check him in again later on. That's the downside for going through there, but the prices can be very cheap. And the service is not bad either. I think with Sichuan Airlines, I was pretty happy with that. And China Southern was equally as good, I think. I think it's a lot more of a standard experience flying through to Russia using one of these Arabic airlines. I recommend doing that. It's sort of the seamless way to go about doing it, especially if you're not used to flying internationally, let alone flying to Russia. Once you get to Russia, what do? There are two important things you have to do first. The first thing is you need to make sure you register. Whichever hotel you stay at, you're going to give them your passport, and along with your passport, you will have a migration card. Every time you enter Russia, they will process your details. They will look at your passport, and then they will issue you an immigration card. That goes with you everywhere. You will take that with you wherever you travel here, and whichever hotel you stay at, you give them the passport, the migration card, and then they will go about registering your stay. Now, it doesn't have to be at a hotel. You can stay with someone who is an individual host, but then it's their responsibility as the host to register your stay with them at the local authorities. So just keep that in mind, that you need to be registered when you come here. It's not an issue when you're staying at hotels, of course, because it's just part of your check-in process and your checkout process. The second thing here is for spending. So obviously when you get here, you've got no way to pay for anything because you can't use Visa or MasterCard in Russia anymore. And this is a big question. I've gotten a lot of questions from viewers. One thing that most people aren't aware of is when you come here, you can open up a bank account in Russia. You don't need to be a resident to do that. You can open up an account as a tourist. Not all banks do that, but your big banks here will open up an account for you. And in fact, they'll even give you the card on the spot. So it won't be issued with your name on it because it's an instant issuance of the card, but you can walk in, go through the process, and you will walk out that same day with the card. It's a process that takes maybe 1 hour, probably even less. And then you just pay with that. While you're there, you can put some money onto the card. You can, I don't know if anyone's going to bring that much here, but you can bring up to $10,000 in cash without the need to declare it. So depending on how long you're going to be here and how lavishly you're going to be spending your time in Russia, just keep in mind that you can bring up to that much without the need to declare it. Lastly, I'd like to talk briefly about language requirements here. I'd have to say that it's very subjective. It depends on how much language you want to use. If you're a type of person that likes to immerse yourself in the culture, you look forward to learning some phrases and understanding some people when you come here. Some people don't feel they need to do that, and that's totally fine. For them, it's probably more important that they understand whether the country they're going to is one of those places where they can get away with almost exclusively speaking English. And in a sense, it's a good thing that I say it's subjective, because it means that it's not a hard and fast, no, you won't survive here if you don't learn any Russian, you're doomed. It's definitely a place here where you're going to hear a lot less English. Even the English you do see out in the society, it uses Cyrillic to spell the words, which I find entertaining to try and read every now and then. I'm always coming across something I read, I'm like, what's that word? And there's only once I sound it out with Russian that I can hear I'm speaking an English word with a Russian accent. So you should learn something, just a few little phrases here and there. At least it's going to give you some immersion when you come here. I think it's a fulfilling thing to do no matter where you're going. But at the same time, if you come here and you don't learn anything, I've discussed this in a previous video in the past, and it is still my opinion. If you don't know anything and you speak English, you're going to be fine when you come here. So if you're interested in coming here on a tourist visa and that information wasn't enough, or you're having some problems along the way, perhaps I could help. If you want to send through a message, I'll see if I can try to find some time to answer. I generally do look through my messages and I try to answer as many of them as I possibly can. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, or you'd like to see more videos like this, then consider subscribing. It will help me out very much. Thank you all for your time. Take it easy.